Hey divers, welcome to Facebook Live. It is Tuesday, December 15th, 2020, and we are here at the Force-E Boca Raton store, and we are ready to give you an exciting presentation tonight. I have our guest presenters on screen with me. I've got Jeremy Tanner, one of our Force-E instructors. Say hi.
Hi.
And I also have Mr. Michael Steidley. He's on the bottom corner of my screen right now. He's chiming in from Orlando. He's with the Mares and SSI. And we have an excellent presentation for you guys tonight. So thank you for tuning in. If you are here, tell us a hello in the comments section. Let us know where you are listening in from. Are you here in South Florida? Are you in the state of Florida? Are you in the U.S.? Are you out of the U.S.? We want to know who is tuning in for tonight's presentation, so give us a little comment. Hey, Angie, that was one of our winners from last week. All right, guys, so if you are tuned in, also make sure that you're hitting the thumbs up button, your smiley face, or that heart emoji to let us know that you're enjoying this presentation and having a lot of fun with us. So, a couple of housewarming things. It is the holiday season, so here at Force-E, don't forget you can find the perfect gift for your favorite scuba diver, free diver, spearfishing, photography, snorkeler, water-loving person. We have it all here. Anything from kids stuff to people who want expensive dive scooters. We've got it here for you guys. So make sure you go to our website, www.force-e.com, and you can see our gift guide for the holiday season. Also, don't forget, we have our Force-E gift cards. That's right, we have a special. If you buy a $100 gift card at Force-E, we will give you a $20 gift card. Woohoo! So make sure you either go online or go into the stores and pick up one of those and give it to your friendly, mailman or your favorite dive buddy. They will love you forever. Also, if you want to get in on the raffle tonight, that's right, guys. Since we didn't have our Force-E holiday party like we normally do, we had the guys over at Mares give us a really nice gift to raffle off. So we're going to be talking about that item later. But if you want to get on that raffle, you have to register. You have to register by 7 p.m. Go to the website for Force-E, www.force-e.com. Go to the event tab, scroll down, find tonight's presentation. It's going to take you to Eventbrite. And what you want to do is register your name and your email address so that we can put it in our random name picker, and you might be the lucky winner tonight. We've got some other prizes too. We've got boat passes, and we have some other great things. And I heard a GoPro in the raffle. What? So, all right, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to start with Force-E instructor Jeremy Tanner. And what he's going to do, he's going to talk to you guys about a save a dive and how to save a dive. So tune in. Here we go.
Okay, so again, my name is Jeremy. I teach here at Force-E in Boca Raton. I also work the shop sometimes, and so some of you may have seen me here already. But what I want to talk about is specifically how to build a save a dive kit, how a save a dive kit should work for you, what the scope of it should be, and things like that. Because I get a lot of questions about, what do I put in a save a dive kit? What matters? And really a lot of that comes down to what you understand how to fix. All right. And so we're going to talk about what goes into this, but also what kind of scope you need to look at. All right. So we can go and go ahead. All right. So looking at what we're going to talk about, we are going to talk about what a save a dive kit is. Okay. How do we make one? How do we determine the scope of the kit that we need? I'm going to talk about some recommended tools and parts, things that you're going to want to have with you. We're also going to want to talk about how you can expand your capabilities, how you can get better at repairing gear or things on the fly. And really, we're not talking about you becoming a technician in a shop. We're just talking about how do you keep a dive from failing? How do you set yourself up to win every time? I had a scenario a couple of years ago. I was at the Blue Heron Bridge. I was getting in with a couple of people for a guide. And as I was walking to the water, here come this fellow and this lady, and I thought, oh, they must be getting out. I asked them what the water conditions were like. They said, well, we don't know. We didn't get in. Our O-ring blew, and now we can't make the dive. So as they were getting ready to pack up, I said, well, can I just put an O-ring in for you? And I took 2 minutes to grab an O-ring, put it in for them. And, they ended up tipping me $100. And I thought that was a little crazy. But what he said was, hey, we just drove over from Fort Myers for this dive. It's not about missing the dive. It's that we would have wasted this whole trip. And so you want to be able to be, capable of fixing small things like that, because it can make a big difference for someone. That was a very meaningful thing to them, even though it was a really simple fix for me. So we can go ahead with our PowerPoint here. We're going to talk about what a Save a Dive kit is. So a Save a Dive kit is both tools and parts that you're going to need. Okay, not just parts, but you need the tools to do it as well. It's going to cover the scope of the repairs that you intend to do. Okay, so if you are diving a particular set of equipment, you want to have parts for that equipment. But also you want to look at, do I want to deal with saving my buddy's dive, not just mine, because that kind of matters. If I'm going with a buddy and my buddy can't dive, then I probably can't dive either. We need to have a dive kit that can go with us. Okay, so my Save a Dive kit, at least parts of it, will go on the boat with me, or it'll get brought to the dive site where I can access it. It's also going to be appropriate for the type of gear that we're using. Again, it needs to have parts that we might need in real life scenarios, or what those around us might need. All right, your Save a Dive kit, and this is really important, ought to match your competence. Okay, and we'll talk more about that later. Why do we have a Save a Dive kit? Well, obviously, for that time when, oops, something went wrong. Now, where do problems happen in a dive? Okay, most problems, I'd say a solid 95% of problems in diving happen at the surface, sometimes on the boat, before we ever get in the water. I know each and every one of you has heard the O-ring blow on the boat, and oops, someone just lost a lot of air in the process of trying to shut it off. And that's a really minor fix usually, but these types of things happen. This is why we check our gear before we go in the water, because sometimes things just don't work the way we expected them to work. Okay. Minor problems, sometimes we may have a leaky hose, okay? Just an O-ring that's starting to fail, but it's not quite there yet. And a lot of people go, oh, well, I could go ahead and go in the water with it. It's not that big a deal. I'm not going to lose that much air. But really, those problems can become bigger problems if we allow them to continue. Okay, problems, when you have a problem with a piece of gear, it doesn't get better on its own. It only gets worse. Okay, so we don't want that to become life-threatening. Obviously, major problems would be things that are obstructions to diving to begin with, like the O-ring that blows. Okay, that keeps us from diving. Okay. Just about any repair you do is going to require some form of a tool, some form of a part. Okay. System failure, again, usually means two people won't dive because, again, I may be dependent on a buddy, and rightfully so. And so it may prevent both of us from going in. Okay. Again, investing in a boat fee, especially when you're paying $80 for a boat, no one likes to get on the boat, get out to the dive site, and find out you're just going to have to sit there, right? But that fear of missing out, that investment can cause you to attempt to dive with malfunctioning gear, and that's not a safe thing. So we always want to be careful that we're not so overly invested that we don't know when to call a dive when we need to. However, having the right kit may make a big difference. All right, so when we talk about the scope of repairs, first of all, who do we want to be prepared to assist? In most cases, it's probably you and a buddy, you and a spouse or a friend or whatever, but it's typically a two-person team, okay? Because that's kind of the minimum of what you would need. Now, when it comes to like someone like me, I teach for a living, so I may need to be prepared to help, 4, 5, 6 other people. But also, a lot of times I'm on a boat and I represent Force-E, and so I want to be able to represent Force-E well and be able to handle just about anything that comes up on a boat. So my Save a Dive kit is going to look a little different than yours might, okay? But we'll look at mine here in a bit and talk about what goes into it. Okay. Obviously, we talked about, our own self-reliance, being able to fix our own problems is a great thing. But our buddy team, you know, or a group or an entire area, you just need to decide, how much do I want to invest in this? Who do I want to be prepared to assist? You look at the types of gear. You know, do we have both fin and yoke tanks? Do we have tech gear? Do we have, you know, high O2 gases where we need special, you know, Viton O-rings or, you know, polyurethane O-rings or whatever? You know, a lot of us dive recreational single tank systems. But again, technical gear may be very different and may have different parts, and so we may need to be prepared for both. Okay? Obviously, some people bring camera systems. You know, these have special O-rings that are a little bit different than what you would normally have. So you may look at say, you know what, I've got a camera system, my buddy has a camera system, what do we need to make these work? And then of course, things like fishing and hunting. I don't do that myself, but obviously there are things like maybe extra bands, things like that, that you may need to look at having in addition to what the average diver would do. All right, so let's talk about the basic levels of understanding how to repair. You know, knowledge is just that basic, I understand how to make this repair, or I have an understanding of how it might be done. But the experience is when you've done it at least once, you've actually made it happen, all right? But when it comes to competency is where we talk about having the ability to make that repair successfully and efficiently every time, okay? So there's a big difference between experience and competence. In fact, experience, if you do the same thing 100 times the wrong way, you've still got experience. It's just the wrong experience, right? But competency is when you know how to do it correctly and you can make it successfully and efficiently every time. Your Save a Dive kit should really match your competence, okay? Or the competence you intend to have once you get some training. Competency, again, can be gained through training. It can be gained through experience under guidance of someone that is competent. All right, so let's get on with tools. You know, O-ring picks, this is a must. If you're gonna have a Save a Dive kit and you don't have an O-ring pick, it's probably not a real Save a Dive kit, all right? Now I'm gonna have a look at my system real quick here. I've got kind of this huge box, okay, and that is actually only part of it, but inside my box I have various pieces. I always, in just about every part of my kit, I have some form of O-ring pick, okay? Now an O-ring pick needs to be made of a metal that's somewhat soft. And so I hear a lot of people complain about brass O-ring picks because, well, they bend and they don't last as long that way. But what you don't want is you don't want an O-ring pick that is tougher than the metal of the tank valve, because then you may scratch that tank valve and then the O-ring won't work right. So it is by design that we use brass O-ring picks because they do bend and they give away before the tank valve will. But, you know, whatever the case, your O-ring pick should have a pointy end, okay? And that pointy end you can use to either stab the O-ring, preferably, or go under it if you're careful. But every kit should have an O-ring pick. Now, wrenches. Yeah, wrenches, another big thing. You know, you need wrenches in order to undo just about any hose on a regulator. And let's face it, most of our problems occur on our regulators. Okay, that's where the O-rings tend to fail. Some of these O-rings are under a lot of stress and movement, especially our HP spools and of course our tank face. But you know, again, we've got a lot of information here about sizes and things. And you know, you can write that down if you want, or you can go back to it if you want. Obviously, I work here at the shop, and you're always welcome to come and hit my brain as well. Okay. Just remember that I think we're back live again. Sorry about that. Not really sure where I cut off there. But you know, I started to talk about adjustable wrenches. Adjustable wrenches are really nice because you can use one wrench for all sizes. Now, the downside to the adjustable wrench is obviously you're diving around salt water. And that salt water will tend to seize that up. So just be aware that you are going to replace these more often anyway. Sometimes it's nice just to have a really basic set of wrenches. Within my dive kit, I keep a few different wrenches, and you know, they just look like this. This is a 5/8 wrench. A lot of our equipment is SAE, but you may have metric equipment. Obviously, that's up to you what you use there. For me, I tend to keep thin wrenches. So this is a basic thin wrench. You can see it's very, very thin. And things like this are great for transmitters because transmitters often don't have that much of a grip, and so we need to get a thin wrench to get a grip on those. All right. So, but we do need wrenches, and we'll go through a regulator here in a minute and look at how to take it apart. Wire cutters, I consider these very important. You're always going to need to cut something. But typically we're talking about zip ties, and zip ties are really nice to have. But anyway, you want it to be able to cut flush if you can help it. Now, when we talk about our hex key set, we're talking about Allen wrenches typically. Okay, star wrenches sometimes, but Allen keys are really important. We use these for taking off our plugs in our regulator, so that can be useful to either plug a regulator that needs one, or to remove a plug if you need to add a hose. Also, the larger size, if we have a DIN to yoke adapter in our tank and we need to take that out or put it in, we'll need that for that. I recommend both SAE and metric. Both of those are very, very useful. Okay, other recommended tools. You can see the pictures there. Obviously, the Oceanic style battery compartment key. That's really common with most places. I know Aqualung and I think Mars use the same key in a lot of theirs, but they're made to work with a variety of different computers. If you have a dive computer that has a replaceable battery, you may need to be able to do that on the boat, and so that key can be really useful to have with you. Screwdrivers. Not all dive gear has the opportunity to use screwdrivers, but at the same time, it's nice to have for certain applications. I recommend having set around. More often than not, my screwdrivers go to help the boat crew with something versus working with my own gear. Needle nose pliers, really great for getting hooks out of things if you've got a hook in your gear. When we talk about painter's tape and a marker, really nice to be able to mark things on the fly if there's a problem with gear that needs to be repaired later. Okay, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten back to the shop with some students, and one of them goes, "Oh yeah, my regulator had a leak in the hose." Oh, well, okay. Which regulator? Well, we've got a big pile of regulators. It's nice to identify that problem ahead of time and tape it, mark it, and figure out where to go from there. Okay. And then the hand wheel tool, if you're familiar with how to replace a hand wheel, that can be a really useful thing. It can make or break a dive, because once the hand wheel goes, it's nice to be able to replace it. All right. So let's talk about parts. Parts, obviously, that's the other side of the equation. We talk about tools, and we'll give you some more options for tools there. But the parts, you really obviously want to have O-rings. Okay, a variety of sizes, and those sizes need to fit the application of what you're comfortable dealing with. All right. For the most part, if you're diving yoke, you're going to have a 014 O-ring. That's a little hard to show on the screen, I guess, but it's a tiny little thing and it's thin. Okay, but just having a bunch of those around can make or break a dive. When you look at a tank, they sit right inside what we call the gland, and the O-rings sit there and allows our regulator to make a seal. So a simple way to replace that is take a pick and just stab the O-ring if you can. Try to prevent yourself from stabbing the tank. I've stabbed the O-ring, I'm pulling it out. And this is actually a DIN adapter, or a DIN to yoke adapter, and so I'm actually going to use a 112, which is the other side of this. 112 is a little bit thicker O-ring, okay? It's a 3/32 thickness, much stronger O-ring. Really all I have to do in most cases is just pop it in there and then apply my regulator to it and it's good to go. But if you have a tool like mine, you may also have a tamping end. And this is a flat end that does not have a pointy edge. And you can use that to go ahead and seat that O-ring well, whether it's the rounded end or whether it's the flat end, okay? But O-rings, you know, that's the most simple O-ring is the tank O-ring, the face O-ring, and I would venture to say a solid 80 to 85% of problems on boats are exactly that item. It's just that tank O-ring. Okay? All right, so I'll go back on. Yeah. All right, so you know, O-rings, again, there are other O-rings, and we'll go over what some of those things are. Regulator mouthpiece, that's another big one. Can't tell you how many times I see people with a chewed up mouthpiece that's broken apart and it's hard for them to keep it in their mouth. And yeah, let's go ahead and pull this regulator over here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to really quickly show you how to replace a mouthpiece. For this, you're going to need typically some kind of cutting tool, such as, again, our wire cutters. Okay. You're going to need a new mouthpiece. Okay, so I don't know if you can see the mouthpiece there. And that mouthpiece has a zip tie that runs around it that keeps it in place. To remove the old one, we're simply going to grab at the zip tie and cut. The zip tie is now gone, and I can take that mouthpiece and I can pull it off and remove it. Now we've got a regulator that does not have a mouthpiece but is ready to receive a new one. Now this one's still good, so I am going to reuse it. I'm going to put it back on temporarily here at least. But it is getting kind of worn out, so it probably will need to be replaced soon. So a lot of them, there will be a top. Sometimes you'll see it. It's hard to see it on this one. I probably can't show it on the video, but it will say top somewhere on it. That's what's meant to be up here, not down here. You're just going to fit it into place. You're going to take a zip tie. And you're going to wrap that zip tie around that groove. And the zip tie, you know, if you've got a zip tie gun, if you want to invest in one, you can do that and you get it nice and tight. But really, it just needs to be hand tightened. And so we're going to cinch it down. I like to cinch it at the edge so I can then take it and pull upwards until it's nice and tight. And then, of course, I'm going to take my wire cutters again. This is where it's nice to have some flush ones. I'm just going to remove that. Now, you do want to check this to make sure it's not too sharp. If it is sharp, you can try to whittle it down. If you got a knife, you can just cut off any rough edges. But otherwise, this is ready to go. The mouthpiece is secure again. Okay, mask strap. A mask strap is also a really useful thing to have handy. It's just, you know, when the mask strap goes, it's very hard to hold a mask on your face. Having one of those can save a dive. Now, you can do it. You can just have a strap in your kit, or, you know, in my case, a lot of times I just bring a backup mask because it's a little more versatile. You're going to find people who do more extreme diving, tech diving, things like that, often bring a backup mask anyway. It's not necessarily a bad thing to have, but it is an extra piece of equipment to take. So whether you take a strap or a backup mask, it's up to you and what your application is. But whatever the case, that can make or break it for someone. The snorkel keepers, you know, these are just really simple things that typically are used to keep the snorkel on the mask, but we use them to cinch our gear onto our, or cinch an octo onto our gear. That snorkel keeper can be wrapped around the mouthpiece. They're very useful for just, you know, retaining things as well. LP and HP plugs, you know, these are just the simple little plugs that go into the holes that otherwise hoses would fit on the regulator. And then, of course, zip ties, very, very important. And you can fix almost anything with zip ties, between that and duct tape, really. But we don't use a lot of duct tape in scuba. The zip ties are kind of like zip ties are kind of like our duct tape. The swivel spool, a lot of people don't really know about these. There is a picture of it there at the bottom of that slide. A swivel spool is going to sit in between your HP hose, your high pressure hose, and your pressure gauge, or transmitter for some people. And what it does is it allows that unit to swivel, and so you can turn it and see it no matter what angle it's coming from. Now, go back to that slide. On the slide, because it's going to be easier to see than this, on the slide you can see there are two O-rings, okay, one for each side. And those O-rings, they're under constant stress and friction, all right? Because it rotates, those O-rings will go out over time. Now that's a 003 O-ring. They are a little bit difficult to apply. You can kind of get used to it, but it can be difficult to put those on the first time. They also really ought to be greased because there is friction. It's a dynamic O-ring. But what I recommend for people on boats especially is just carry an extra spool, okay? And so you can pop the pressure gauge off of your, and in fact, let's go ahead and take this apart real quick. Actually, no, that one's kind of embedded. But you can take the pressure gauge off of your HP hose, and you can just remove the old spool, put in a new spool, and then go back and replace the O-rings on the old spool when you have time, all right? So it's a quick fix that way. All right, so next slide, other common parts, let's talk about that. Computer batteries, whatever you're diving with. I have a computer that uses a AA battery, so I keep one of those around. I also have a transmitter that uses a CO2, so I keep one of those around. But a lot of my students use the 2450s in their computers, especially if they're using rentals. So I tend to keep a lot of those around because it suits what I typically need. All right. With that computer, a lot of times it's best to change the O-ring too. And we'll have that on the O-ring reference when we get to it later. A demi yoke insert can be nice. Again, in case you end up having to go to a different tank because your tank had a problem and oops, it's a den tank, a simple insert can fix that. Okay, fin strap, extra clips. Extra clips are great. What I recommend, there's a few different ways we can go about this. If you want to put that up on screen. The first clip I recommend is what we call a double ender. Now the double ender is really simple. It has clips on each side, and you can attach this to just about anything. A lot of times I can put this on a hose if I need to, just as an emergency, clip. We want to keep people from running their hoses into the reef, but also occasionally something on your gear may come off that wasn't intended to come off, but you need to retain it. A double ender can be great for that. The other thing you can do is you can always get what we call an eye clip. Okay, and so this has, a fixed ring at the bottom and a spring-loaded opening on the top there. And I'll typically use that with what we call a quick link, where you would unscrew it and put it together, okay? And so when we do that, I can now affix this to someone else's gear to help them solve a problem. But at the same time, it's really easy for me to take it back apart later and keep my parts. I'll send it with someone else. All right. So those are great to have in your kit if you can help it. Lubricant for O-rings. Don't overdo this. Okay. The general rule of thumb is this. If there is going to be friction on that O-ring, something is actually moving on it, then you would grease it. Okay. You would use some kind of lubricant. If that is what we call a static O-ring, in other words, we're going to apply something to that O-ring and leave it in place and it's not going to move, then you don't need to grease it, all right? But for things like the HP spool, that's a really useful thing. And certain equipment may have, dynamic O-ring. Wing nuts and washers, if you're into tech gear, you've got a backplate system, that's gonna be really useful for you. Less common parts, spare hoses. I keep a couple of spare hoses myself because again, I need to be able to handle students, but not everyone needs to carry spare hoses. Having a basic yoke screw. Yoke screw is that thing at the end of the regulator, first stage, that unscrews so we can take out our dust cap. And I'm sure you've all been on the boat and someone keeps unscrewing it and keeps unscrewing it. And then what happens? Oops, it comes out and it goes right overboard. I don't know why. It's this magnetic attraction. It just always goes overboard. So it can be useful to have one. I keep one in my kit, but again, it's not that common. And so then, an extra power inflator assembly. If you've got a standard power inflator assembly, yeah, you can fix those on the boat if you've got Schrader valves or something, but that's a little more intense. It can be easier just to replace the whole assembly. Okay, but now we're talking about, again, less common parts. This is like, wow, you really want to save any dive, right? Spare hand wheel. The hand wheel is, of course, the part of the tank that we turn it on with, okay? So that's the hand wheel that I just used when I opened that. And again, they are prone to failure, especially if you're over tightening it. Occasionally they will fail, and it can be nice to replace those. They're easy enough to do once you know how. All right, other things I take, I take some kind of cord. I keep shock cord, bungee cord myself, just in case I just need to wrap something or whatever. It can just be useful in a variety of situations. Hemp line is also something you can take. Hemp line, any kind of biodegradable line, especially if you think that you might have to tie off something and then it might end up in the water. Some kind of biodegradable line can be really nice as well. And then oxygen gaskets. I always keep an extra oxygen gasket and an oxygen key. If you're qualified to administer oxygen, that's a great thing to have. But even if you're not, having that part could save someone else's life, essentially. I have been on boats before where they went to put someone on oxygen and oops, the gasket blew out and they didn't have the ability to do that. Oh, here's an extra gasket. Okay, so an oxygen gasket is pretty simple. It looks like an O-ring. Let's see if I've got one here. I think someone actually borrowed mine. But we'll have those here in the store as well as some other things. And again, if you're qualified to use that, great. Otherwise, you can still carry it. It's just not as common. All right. So common field repairs, we talked about the tank face O-ring. We've all seen that. We've probably all done it. Mouthpieces, again, a really simple fix. Regulator hose O-ring. When we've got a regulator hose, maybe our Octo has a blown out O-ring. Well, this is a really simple matter of just using a wrench to take that off. Find the right size wrench. That one's a little big. So we're simply going to open it, just like lefty loosey. I like to hang the regulator so that the hose is pointed straight down and rotate it from there. There's less stress on it that way. And you can see that there's a simple O-ring there. Okay, on a low pressure, it's typically an 11. On high pressure, it's a 12. We can take that O-ring off, put a new one on. Okay, even if you're just reseating it because the O-ring just extruded out, it bulged out a little bit, I would still recommend replacing it because that has gone through a stress that it shouldn't have. All right, so even with this, before I replace this, I'm going to put a new O-ring on there because now that I've released it, I want to put a new one on before I tighten it back up again. All right. So again, mass strap, fin strap, these are really common. Fin straps, you may want to keep one. It's up to you. I've used zip ties in a pinch. Okay, they can work as well. Extra computer battery, really common thing as well. Oops, my computer isn't working. Well, let's put a new battery in real quick. And then again, the unattached dangling equipment, being able to solve that. Okay, so let's talk about expanding your capabilities. First of all, gaining knowledge, and that's kind of what we're doing here. Is we're going over a few basic things about how to gain knowledge and how to do certain things. But we can also read training materials. Okay, so if you take a class, you may want to take a gear, like an equipment technique class, which we'll talk about in a bit. But you can read training materials, and that's gaining the knowledge, right? It's not the experience, but it's the knowledge. Attending a lecture like this, okay? Learning the skills is more the practical. Maybe you come in one day and you just say, hey, I want to learn something from you, and I'm happy to show you, okay? But we also, again, have classes for that. But anytime you perform under the supervision of someone that knows what they're doing, then you'll start to gain confidence in that skill, okay? And so that's what you want to do, is build your confidence by learning to do it right and efficiently, and then you practice in both controlled and real-world applications. All right. So SSI does have an equipment techniques class. It is something that's not as common for people to request, but really it's a great class. We actually go through a huge number of different repair techniques, and we try to expand your knowledge and your skill level on those things and get you confident with them. And it could be, a number of things, even a lot of times taking apart a regulator and seeing what's in it and understanding what are the things that you can do in the field and what you can't. But that's a really cool class. One thing that Mars is doing right now, because Mars is attached to SSI, if you buy a minimum purchase of $180 of Mars gear, and I believe this is through the end of January. Michael Steidley can correct me later if I'm wrong. But if you're buying at least $180 worth of Mars gear, you can get a free digital learning kit for the equipment techniques class. Yeah, there we go, January 31st. So the certification, once you've done the training, it can be completed in a classroom session. Additional fees would apply, and I'll have some options for that at the end. We also are offering tools and parts kits here. All right, so I've been shopping around, gathering some stuff, and I'll show you my kit in a little more detail here in a minute. But I want to have some parts on hand that you can come in and purchase if you want to get some simple things. All right, so this is the second to last slide. It's an O-ring reference. Obviously, you know, this is not something we're going to go through all of this, but these are just numbers. So I don't know if you want to take a screenshot or come back to this. But if you want to know what O-rings to buy, these are the O-rings to buy. And of course, we do have these here as well. All right, but that's some basic uses for them. Now, you notice at the bottom, there are three basic types of material that we use for O-rings. The nitrile, also known as the Buna-N, these are the most common. Okay, they're the cheap ones. They're on what's, you know, on most of our tanks and stuff like that. Okay, they're nothing special, but they are hydrocarbon based, and so we never want to use that for high O2 because with high pressures of oxygen, it becomes explosive around hydrocarbons. So that's the one application we really don't tend to use that. Now for premixed nitrox, you know, some people will say, oh, always go Viton. It doesn't matter too much. Okay, premix nitrox, yeah, your nitrile will, they may degrade about 15% faster than the others, but again, that's iffy. All right, but the fluorocarbon elastomer, that's the one that, you know, goes by a few different names. The FPM, FKM, the Vitons, those are all trademark names, but those are a little more safe for higher O2. Okay, and of course the polyurethane is a really common one that we see in tech applications where we need, you know, higher pressures. It's going to be a white O-ring. It's very strong, very durable, great for high oxygen, but it is very, very sensitive to UV and will degrade quickly if it's exposed to sunlight. All right. And then the last slide, you know, this is just a look at what we're doing for classes. You know, if you do want an equipment techniques class, we do have the digital kits for that you can study. It's $60, or again, $180 worth of Mars gear, you get a free digital kit. Getting a great set of like Quattro Plus fins and a set of Mars boots. Personally, I love the Mars boots. That's all I dive. They're some of the best boots out there. But you know, that alone gets you right in that range. Okay, but they've got a lot of other great things too. I dive the Bolt BC occasionally. Very great back and plate BCD. So there's a lot of different options there, and we'd love to show you some of their gear. But buying that gets you the digital kit anyway. So if it's time to shop for a new pair of fins, it's a great time to also look at an equipment techniques class. The class session itself, we're doing 3 different dates, as you can see on the right. December 28th, January 4th, January 11th. All of those are Monday nights at 5:30. So if you have any interest in that, obviously we need to get you signed up for the digital kit first, but then a class session would cost you $95, and we will go through all sorts of cool repairs. You don't have to come to all 3, just any one of them. All right. So real quick, what I want to do, you can go back to the video screen there. I want to just kind of show you what goes into my Save a Dive kit, because that's kind of what spurred this all on. Is someone went, oh wow, that's a really nice Save a Dive kit, we should show people. So my O-ring kit, for those that have seen it, you know that I have a lot of different O-rings and stuff. Okay, and so I've got every O-ring I could possibly ever need to repair anything in the field. All right, it's overkill for a lot of people, but for me this works. And this also fits things like the smaller batteries, a tube of grease, some DIN inserts, things like that. Okay, I also have some Schrader valves in there for repairing low pressure systems and so on. But what I've got too is I tend to keep everything modular. So I also have a small kit that has my basic hand tools that I use most. Okay, so on anything that I do, whether it's a dive boat or going to bridge or whatever, I always have at least that O-ring kit. And this has some wrenches, it has an oxygen key, a gasket, and it has a couple of zip ties. Okay, and that's basically it. But that's really useful to have with me. But I actually have a whole modular system. I've got, you know, a tool kit that matches up with another that becomes a rolling set. Then it, you know, again, very modular. Next set of tools I would need screwdrivers and wire cutters and you know, adjustable wrenches, Allen keys all go in here. I have, you know, my tank valve repair kit, so I can deal with hand wheels as well as valve stems and things like that. All right. I also have kind of a spare accessories, lots of mouthpieces and various things in there. I tend to keep marking tape, okay, because again, I want to be able to mark things if there are problems, as well as marking gas and so on if we need to analyze on the boat. Okay, and then again, even in this, I carry some form of line that I can, you know, cut and tie up things if I need to. And I've got some spare hoses down there and stuff like that. So a lot of times this goes with me on the boat, but again, it may just be those other two pieces. Then we get over to our next layer. This is just a really simple piece that sits in between. It has a little bit more of the tech gear, things like, you know, extra clips. And I also have, you know, pieces to adjust our low pressure hoses and take those apart, put those together. I have things like a blower tool and so on and so forth. More zip ties in there and some extra spare parts. And then the very base, I have things like my hemp line. Okay, so this is a biodegradable line that if I do need to tie off something and need to leave it in the water for some reason, I want to use this because it will biodegrade and it will not hurt the environment. But I also have things like shock cord, okay, and duct tape. And then, you know, from there, I also keep things like, you know, spare bands if someone, you know, breaks a band on a tech rig. And I have things like glow sticks because, hey, who doesn't want to mark things with glow sticks? They're just fun to have anyway. There's a few odds and ends there otherwise, but that's kind of the layering system. So everything that's in the base and in that middle kit, it usually stays in the car or even in storage. But it's there if I really need it. I tend to bring that to the shop to repair things. But the top part holds the things that are most important. And again, the top two pieces in that are the things that I want to take with me every time, no matter where I'm going. Okay, so I try to keep it really simple so that I can just grab what I need and go. All right.
Okay, let's go on and talk to Michael Steidley from Mares. So Michael, let's bring you in here. Okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and get your screen share here. All right.
All right, good evening, everybody. Hey, thanks for joining. Hey, great job, Jeremy. Really informative presentation. And I'll look forward to seeing how many people you certify as equipment specialists. So before we get going, a little bit of history. So I've been diving for 50 years, and this is my 40th year as a diving instructor. And Mares was founded in 1947 and acquired by Head Sporting Goods about 3 decades ago. And then in 2013, Head Sporting Goods also bought Scuba Schools International. So Mares and Scuba Schools International are sister companies. The representatives represent both entities. And there's been some very nice synergism because SSI is very big in freediving. The Mares freediving line and apnea line has been grown considerably because Mares has XR, extended range technical training, or SSI does. Mares has ventured into XR products and done quite a good job. So the two companies have done a great job encouraging both entities to grow and diversify their offerings. So with that being said, what I'm going to do is see if my screen share will work. All righty. Hold on a second, guys. I think I'm going to have to share. Nicole, are you seeing the screen share?
Yes, we can see it. You just need to pop over to the PowerPoint.
All right. Is it up now?
Yes, you just got to go full screen now.
All right. So everybody, what I'd like to do tonight is we're going to talk a little bit about MARES and SSI and who we are, and I'm going to show you a short 3-minute video. And if it doesn't want to make you get on a plane and go diving around the world, I'm talking to the wrong group of folks. So pretty exciting. Lots of different types of diving out there. And then I wanted to share with you 3 new regulators that are being offered in the 2021 line. I talk about a couple new wetsuits that we're offering. And then I want to finish up with the XR silver single back mount BCD backplate and harness that is new this year and has several exciting new features that we haven't offered in a harness before. And the good news is Nicole's going to raffle off one of those BCs to some lucky participant on the seminar. So here we go. Let me share with you who MARES is, and then we're going to jump right into a second short video on our Epic 82 and Ultra 82 second stages. And that one's about 1.5 minutes. So here we go. MARES, who we are.
Take a look around me, taking pages from a magazine. Been looking for the answer ever since we were 17. You know the truth can be a weapon to fight this world of ill intentions. A new answer to the same question. How many times will you learn the same lesson? I think they got it all wrong. We just gotta hold on and on and on and on. 'Cause we're gonna be legends. Get their attention. Doing you ain't just scary. It's about to be legendary. We're gonna be legends. Teach them all lessons. Got this feeling in our souls we carry. It's about to be legendary. Eventually they're gonna know what's right. To make a stand, you got to win the fight. You stand to hear them just the other night. But you might never make it out. You gotta come down and compromise. They never wanna hear your cry. Teach them all a lesson. Got this feeling in our souls we carry. It's about to be legendary.
So pretty cool, isn't it? I think it kind of says it all, from cave diving to free diving to rebreather diving to diving under the ice. It's pretty amazing underwater world. And if you can do it underwater, Mari's is. Hey, were you guys able to see the regulator video? It looked like it froze up.
We have it.
Okay, I'm going to go back to it then. Here we go. All right, so just the video is probably worth 1,000 words, but what I wanted to do was give you a quick recap. And if you can see my cursor and this arrow, this tube here has been on every Mare's regulator built for probably almost 30 years now. It was originally patented, and it's called a VAD, or a vortex assisted design tube. And what it does is it's designed to take air directly from where it's coming out of the hose, and it bypasses all the moving parts in the regulator, puts it directly into the mouthpiece, making it breathe much easier. And then the second new feature that we've done is on some of our upper end regulators, we now have the twin control. So you have the VAD, the normal vortex, or you have Vortex Plus. And if you can see my hand, I'm trying to get to where you can see my hand, but I'll show you later. But that's like a motorcycle grip. If you want more gas, you reach up and turn it towards yourself. And then my favorite regulator in the line, and this is also my wife, who's a diving instructor. She absolutely loves this regulator. It's the Ultra 80J. And the Epic that you see above, that is a metal second stage. There's a lot of benefits to metal, but metal is heavy and it is expensive. But if you guys are into heavy metal regulators, Mare's is one of the only companies that still produces a robust, rugged metal second stage. The Ultra 80J has all of the same features, but it's made out of an ultralight technopolymer. It still features the twin power system. It's a pneumatically assisted design. It has adjustment knobs. And although this first stage looks like a piston first stage, it's actually an environmentally sealed balanced diaphragm. You can get this regulator in either the DIN or the yoke conversion for $554. It's a pretty amazing deal. The first stages are the 82X. And the one that comes on the Epic, the heavy metal second stage, is has a PVD or physical vapor deposition coating. It's very cool. It's a dark gray gunmetal. And what you'll notice is the pressure ports are angled. So if you like to wear it with the swivel down, and it has a swivel, the hoses are routed down. Some people like to wear their first stage with the swivel up, and when you flip this over, what happens is your high pressure hose to your pressure gauge is oriented downward as well. So the engineers actually didn't mess up. It's crooked on purpose, if you will. And then this is a kind of a contrast. The Epic ADJ comes with the PVC coating, and then the 82X with the Ultra, the lightweight technopolymer second stage, comes in a chrome version. They're both very nice, both perform excellently. All of our high-end regulators have an auto sealing technology, and basically, I think everybody's gone traveling where you have a hands-off, all-inclusive, great care resort. And one of the problems is sooner or later the dive guide takes your regulator, pulls it off your tank, and throws it in the dip tank without the cover. And that's a great way to have to service your regulator. So the auto sealing technology prevents that from happening. And I'm going to show you just a quick short video on how it works. It's about 1.5 minutes long. So here we go. Here's how the auto sealing technology works. So that's pretty neat technology. So now for those of you that are regulator collectors or just have to have something really cool that nobody else has, Mari's is starting to make limited edition equipment or limited distribution equipment. And right now, in the past, they've made the Red Devil BC, the Blue Battle BC. This year, they offered the Psycho Calavera, but they've chosen and offered some things that are limited edition. And this year, one of the things they're doing is offering the Metal Abyss second stage with a 62X first stage combination. And they only sold 20 of them in the state of Florida. And Force-E was one of the very exclusive Mari stores that have inventory and are selling the Abyss 62X. So what makes the 62X is it has a unique metal second stage. So it does not have the twin power, but it's got the vortex assisted design. It is pneumatically balanced and has an adjustment. And that's coupled with our brand new high performance smaller first stage, the 62X. And for those of you that might be familiar with the older 52X, this is about 10% smaller, about 30% less volume, and it's considerably lighter, which makes this a very nice first stage for traveling. The map on this is $699.95, and right now the only place left in the state of Florida you can get it is Force-E. There were only 20 released in the whole state, and Force-E, I believe, has 6 left. So if you're looking for a really great performing regulator that's unique and special, the Metal Abyss 62X first stage is an awesome combination available only at Force-E. And the 62X first stage has the auto sealing technology, so pretty cool. So a lot of times people ask us, how is it that people measure and test regulator performance? And there is something called an ANSI, A-N-S-T-I, ANSI breathing machine. There are only 12 of these machines in the world, and the United States Naval Experimental Diving Unit has one. Mares has one. A couple other manufacturers have them. But these are used to test regulators. And what's nice about these, if you look at this next slide, you get a picture of kind of what the whole thing looks like. But if you look at this tub here, this tub actually closes, and you can do ice diving in this tub. You can do deep diving to thousands of feet. You can simulate high breathing rates. You can simulate cylinders that are nearly empty, and you can get a really nice picture of how a regulator performs. And Mares in Italy has this at their factory where regulators are built and developed. And so we test our regulators against every other manufacturers out there. And one of the really neat things that happened for Mares about 5 years ago was we were able to, for the first time ever, get a Mares regulator approved and on the United States Navy approved diving regulator list. And that's the Navy Abyss 22. An amazing regulator. As a matter of fact, it's the only regulator that the Navy couldn't get to freeze in their extreme ice diving tests. And then what you get out of these machines is you get a breathing curve here. And the breathing curve measures the inhalation effort, the exhalation effort, and this little pin right here measures the effort to start breathing. And this is what people have used for decades to measure regulator performance, and the Navy's used this. And now what's happening in a worldwide movement is NORSOC. They're the guys who do the deep water oil rigs. And of course, deep water oil rigs have extremely deep water divers. And so now they're starting to test regulators at 200 meters or 600 feet and 400 meters, which is past 1,200 feet. And they're starting to test regulators' performance at those depths. And I'm very proud to tell you that almost all of the Mares regulators have exceeded the NORSOC 101 tests at 200 meters, and the Fusion even exceeded the 400-meter test. So Mares regulators have a strong testing history and a great history of reliability. Something kind of new and fun for Mares. We introduced it last year, but for those of you that like swivels, we sell a swivel that you can put between the second stage and the second stage hose that gives you a little more comfort, a little more freedom in the way the regulator moves when it's in your mouth. So that's available as well. So let's talk about something fun. Let's move to wetsuits. Because last year, 2020 and 2021 are kind of a huge change in wetsuits for Mares. First off, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but Mares has the Ultra Skins. And no, Nicole, I'm not going to model this for you. This is actually the female Ultra Skin. But the Ultra Skins are very nice. And what's really nice about the Ultra Skins from Mares is we're using a new material. So old Ultra Skin type wetsuits, or not wetsuits, but covers, used to be pretty hard to get on because they only stretched two-way instead of four-way. And the new Ultra Skins we're selling have a four-way stretch and about 25% more stretch than older suits of a similar design. And they do have a little bit of warmth, but these suits are really nice in what I call trunk season in Florida. because they give you a little more protection than a rash guard. And when you're wearing it under your BC, it gives you a lot of comfort and it keeps you from abrasions, but it gives you just a little bit of warm. So by that third dive of the day, when the chill's starting to kick in a little bit, this is really, really nice. I actually went and dove the cenotes in Cancun and Playa del Carmen, and I did a lot of days with 3 and 4 dives wearing just an ultra skin, and it was nice and warm and toasty. So it's a nice suit. But for some of you that are looking for something, I'm going to skip here to the M-Flex wetsuits, a little more value oriented. Last year, Mares introduced the M-Flex wetsuit line, and it has a 1 millimeter, 2.5 millimeter, 5 millimeter, and 7 millimeter. And they're super stretch material, nothing fancy as you can kind of see. The female suits look very attractive they're all black, but they've got a very nice powder blue or kind of light, it's not quite royal blue, but a light blue seam stitching that kind of accentuates the suit a little bit, looks very nice. This is a great suit, especially a great suit that's economy. And the men's version is a little bit different in that the men's version is mostly black with gray highlights. But what I want to do is, and I'm going to come back to this, but I want you to just look, because if you look at this right here in the seam, what you're going to notice is the seam is sewn, right? And so I'm going to come back to this, but this suit keeps you pretty warm. Typically in the summer, I'm wearing if I'm doing 4 dives a day, I'm wearing a 2.5 millimeter suit just for a little bit of environmental protection, as well as a little bit of thermal protection. And when I'm in the springs where it's about 72 to 76 year round, I'm wearing a 5 mil, and it keeps me nice and toasty warm most of the time. Now, the reason I wanted you to look at that seam was I want to talk a little bit about the brand new, just introduced this year and really coming on strong for 2021, the graphene or the flexigraphene. And this suit is absolutely amazing. If you're one of those folks that like technical information, go look up graphene on the internet. But graphene is a single layer of carbon polymer, and it was discovered a while back, but it is becoming kind of like the new go-to material. And some people believe that if the last decade was all about plastics, the next decade is going to be all about graphene. It has an unbelievable amount of uses, from a super heat conductor to potentially a super electrical conductor in a wetsuit application. The reason it's so neat is because it's extremely flexible, it's extremely durable, and it is strong, and it has amazing heat retention. As a matter of fact, Mares is the only scuba company right now that produces graphene wetsuits. There's one surf company that also produces it. But we're very confident at Mares that graphene is going to be a game changer for scuba wetsuits. And the reason for that is, typically speaking, wearing a graphene wetsuit, you can go down one layer of thickness than what you're used to diving with standard neoprene or standard super stretch neoprene. So for instance, if you're a California diver typically wearing a 7 mil suit, a lot of California divers can drop down to a 5 millimeter graphene, which is an amazing benefit, because with less rubber, you have to worry about less wetsuit compression at depth, and you also can wear less weight. And in Florida, a lot of times I've got several instructors that are wearing this suit, and they're telling me that in the springs, where most of them wear a 5 mil suit, they're staying warm and toasty with the 3 mil version. And I always have to trust the boss at home. My wife is a diving instructor, and she does a little bit of editing and writing for Scuba Schools International. but she has the 3 mil graphene, flexigraphene, and she says that it is the most comfortable, warmest suit that she has ever worn. So you can't get a much better testimony than that. So that's the new wetsuit line. Force-E carries all of these, and I'm almost ready to wrap up, but I want to share with you something really fun. So I know that in Florida, a lot of people love diving back mount BCs, or more specifically, harnesses and back mount donuts. So we've produced this for years now, and every year we come out with a limited edition. And if you've ever had to put one of these systems together, it's miserable. You seem to always get it done and one of the D-rings is on backwards. So this year, Mari's took this to a whole new level, and pay attention on this one, because this is the BC that Nicole's going to be raffling off this evening. So this is the XR Rec silver single back mount buoyancy system. And when you pull it out of the bag, it is completely 100% assembled. The only thing that you and your dive center need to do is to adjust the straps to fit you. It has a 16-liter standard single donut. It comes with a 3mm aluminum silver back plate. It comes with a stainless steel buckle. The D-rings are aluminum. And what's really amazing is we've never done this before on a BC, but out of the bag, it comes with the new X-Rec shoulder padding and back padding. So if you're diving in Florida or you're traveling and the only thing you're wearing is a bathing suit or a rash guard, having this padding makes it amazing. So it's perfect for traveling with the aluminum back plate. It's lightweight. And here's what I love. So in the past, all the Mari's XR or extended range harnesses have been of Hogarthian design. And basically what that means is there's no buckles. And I like to wear my harness a little tight, which makes it a little bit harder to get it in or to get out of it. And so this year on the XR Rec Silver Single BC, what they've done is they've added in one shoulder release for the left-hand side, and you can see it here on my screen. The red arrow's pointing to it. That's a very close-up shot of it. And that is a mil-spec 2-point quick release aluminum buckle. So they're extremely strong, and yet getting in and out of a BC or doing rescue drills with this is become much nicer. So really great. Anyway, this is the BC we're raffling off tonight, so somebody's going to be pretty lucky. And the nice thing is you don't have to worry about sizing other than going into your store and having them help you fit the straps. Now, if you're a traveling diver and you don't quite want to have a back plate and you're looking for something really light and travels easy, a couple of years back, Mari's introduced the Magellan for the traveling diver. And the nice thing about the Magellan is it's about 4 to 4.5 pounds, depending upon the size. It's got integrated weight system. It's got a pull down pocket on one of the sides, and it can hold 9 pounds in the pockets if you're wearing the smaller size, or up to 13 if you're wearing the larger sizes, which is more than enough to handle the weight needs for any traveling diver to the tropics. The other thing that's kind of fun for those of you that are family divers, I'm pretty blessed. I have a 12-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter. They're both competitive swimmers, and they're both avid divers. And when my son started, he started with the Scuba Ranger program back when he was 8. And even the double extra small BCs from Mari's were just a little bit too big, a little bit too bulky. So we introduced the Scuba Ranger BC, and it's got 18 pounds of lift, which is more than adequate. Also, it is nice and small. The tank band itself is a smaller tank band so that you can, instead of putting in an 80 cubic foot or even a 63, it'll accommodate cylinders as small as 30 cubic foot pony bottles, which is what both of my kids grew up diving. As a matter of fact, this little guy in the picture, he managed to get an hour-long dive at the Blue Heron Bridge with a 30 cubic foot pony. So pretty amazing. So one size fits all, but if you look closely where my cursor is, if you can see that, what I want you to notice is there's actually 2 sets of buckles. So when they're really small and starting as an 8-year-old in a Scuba Rangers class, you use the upper buckle. And as they grow bigger, and as a matter of fact, you can go to the lower buckle, and it looks like I'm finally going to be moving him into a back mount because I think he ate too much this summer. He grew like crazy, and he's gotten bigger. So he's just about out of his Scuba Ranger BC. But here's another really nice feature for the smaller divers is we built in these pouches that you can store your octopus and you can store your submersible pressure gauge. So all he needs to do is it's not dragging all over the reef. And you can shove the octopus further down in there. You can actually pull the hose out through the back over here. But it's really nice with the submersible pressure gauge because you can pull it out, look at it, and slip it right back into this sheath on the BC, and nothing is banging against the reef. And he's very, very streamlined. It's got 2 nice Velcro pockets, and there is an option to get 2 add-on 5-pound weight pockets that Velcro in and are dumpable. So thank you for attending this evening. I think it's really nice to Force-E to host me, and I want to thank Jeremy for doing such an amazing presentation on equipment Save a Dive kits. And my name is Michael Steidley, and the store can tell you how to get a hold of me if you have any questions, or if you write down really quick, you'll see my email address up on the slide, steidleymichael@aol.com. And the best thing about being the Mares rep is I get to dive a lot. And there's nothing better than diving, and there's nothing better than diving with Nicole on a Force-E boat. So guys, thanks for listening. And if you have any questions, I think Nicole is hosting.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Michael. I'm actually going to put you down here in the corner here. I've got Jeremy here. You answered pretty much all the questions that came in, Michael. So good job. And I think everyone's ready to go out and buy some Mares gear. I got a lot of people interested in the wetsuit that you were talking about, and this lovely BCD that we're going to be raffling off. I think everyone's excited to see who's going to be the big winner. So let's get into our raffle. What do you say?
I think we should go. And did you play with that shoulder release?
I did.
Is that not the coolest thing ever?
Yep, right here.
Yep, amazing.
Okay, so guys, like I said, we're going to go ahead and do the raffle. I have our names in the random name picker, and we're going to make sure to get our holiday gear on for this raffle because, well, why not? Oh, there's my antlers. All right, guys, so Michael, I'm actually going to hide you so you'll still see us, but I'm going to hide you here. Okay, there we are. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to raffle off is a 2-tank dive trip on the dive boat down in Pompano, Scuba Times. Yay! Thank you, Scuba Time, for donating a 2-tank boat trip. So let's go ahead and bring in our random name picker. Here we go. And the winner is Karen Riley. Karen, you are our winner for our 2-tank boat trip on Scuba Time out of Pompano Beach. All right, guys. Next is another dive boat. We have out of Pompano Beach, South Florida Diving Headquarters. They were nice enough to gift us a 2-tank boat trip on their boat. So let's go ahead and check out who that winner is. Let's see. Melissa Friedman. Melissa, so if you guys are winning, make sure that you put your thumbs up, give your heart emojis. Let us know that you're the winner. All right, what else do we have? We have the GoPro Hero 7. Who wants to win a GoPro? Arby, I don't drink coffee, duh. I'm just naturally this crazy. All right, who wants to win a GoPro? This is donated to us for our raffle tonight. You can take this out, take it and go diving. It comes with a mini micro SD already, so it is ready to go. What do you think, Jeremy?
I love a GoPro.
All right, so let's put it here so you can all see. Let's see who our winner is. Who wants to win this? Da-da-da-da-da. All right, the winner is Carlos. Carlos, you are our winner of the GoPro Hero 7. Woo, woo. All right, and Maris is again so generous, and they want to make sure that we're having a great holiday giveaway. So first one is the Maris safety signaling tube with a real finger spool and clip. So this is gonna go to and the winner is Michael Jamison. Michael, you are our big winner. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart emoji. You're excited. Again, guys, I will reach out to you if you are winners tonight and ask you which location you want to pick up from, or if you need to have us mail it, we'll figure out how to get it to you, because some of you guys might be living somewhere other than South Florida, and you guys are missing out because the conditions today, it was flat, calm, gorgeous. Let's get up and let's get our gear and let's go diving. Give us a call. We'll get you booked. We'll take you out and get you in that water, seeing all the amazing critters that are here in South Florida. Okay, everybody, you're tired of looking at me. You want to look at this thing. Ooh, this is our big giveaway for the night. All right, who wants to win this beautiful backplate BCD? All right. So again, you had to have registered before 7 p.m. to get into this raffle. So let's go ahead and see who our big winner is. Are you guys ready? Are you ready? Here we go. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And our winner is Dan Renero. Dan, if you are listening, give us a thumbs up, jump up and down emoji. Woohoo! Dan, you are a big winner of the Maris XR backplate and wings. So congratulations on the big win, Dan. All right, let me go ahead and hide this and bring Michael back in. There he is.
All
Hey,
right.
Michael. All right, Jeremy, come on in too. All right, guys, so we just want to say thank you all for tuning in. We are sorry about the connections, but we will piece this all together, put it on our YouTube channel so that you guys can rewatch it and get any information that you need about Save a Dive Kit or any of the cool new Maris gear that's out there and coming out for 2021. So we're super excited. Let's get up. Let's get out there. Happy holidays. Let's get our gear and go diving. Thanks, everybody.
Good evening, everybody. Merry Christmas. Have a nice New Year.